moving over to McNime, I think she also has quite a similar, trajectory, career switching. But yours is a little bit different, because you moved from business to sort of like tech, but you focused on the no-code development. What was it in tech that sort of made you, it sort of attracted you to make that switch?
Thank you. Okay, this is going to probably be a little bit of a long one, but I'll try to be as brief and fast as possible. Just to ask the room, how many of you actually know what a low-code developer does on a day-to-day basis? Yeah, that's what I expected. Okay, so firstly, just to explain briefly what low-code development is, and the reason why we exist is for businesses and companies to build software applications with very minimal code. So instead of writing complex amounts of code, I would come in and then develop software applications with tools like Webflow or Flutterflow and Whizzed, and this is just to cut down the time to launch software applications, to put out websites as well. And it's, in simple terms, it's like using building blocks to build out a complete structure. And in most cases, these blocks are components, and then you just bring them together to get something, an end result in a shorter amount of time. So that, in case anyone has to explain low-code development in the future, there you have it. And just to get back to the how I got into low-code development and into tech in general, I'm a very stubborn person, completely stubborn, and being told that I cannot do something or I cannot do a specific thing just makes me want to do it more and to master it. And this is how I probably ended up in tech as well. And just my passion around tech itself started off by chance. I actually started off writing short stories, and they are available online, so if anyone does find them, I owe you a coffee. And also, at the time, I also took up guitar. And with those two things, I realized that what I really loved doing was being creative. And from there, I have a myriad amount of notes, so just bear with me. From there, I realized that I could have taken up art as well, and I could have been mediocre at art for quite some time, but given 2 months or 2 years, 5 years, 10 years down the line, I could have mastered it. But I chose something in tech, and it's something that I really love, and I am paging to the next page. Patience. And that's something that I also learned I needed to have when taking on low-code development, because taking on tools like Webflow or Whizzed, that does come with a little bit of JavaScript, does have a little bit of a learning curve, and that's something I was not prepared for. And that's also something, yeah, not being prepared for it and not having a community of people in Namibia to lean on as well. So just to move on past that, studied business management, didn't end up getting employment in business management, so I launched a proofreading and editing agency, which failed completely. And it was called Grammable at the time. And after launching that, actually while launching that, I built a website in Wix and agonized over like fonts and buttons and layouts for days. And then I launched it. And does anyone want to guess how much I made from that agency? Nothing. Absolutely $0. Okay. And that was okay at the time, because what I learned was I loved being creative, I liked building websites, and I liked launching things in a very short amount of time. And then I leaned into tech. I learned similar tools around Wix, because I hated Wix. So I found Webflow, learned more about that, attended seminars, YouTube videos from experts. It is quite a long journey, it's been years. Yeah, spoke in a lot of forums and communities, and I realized that people around the world are making this their full-time career and actually getting paid for it. So it felt like a little bit of a loophole that I could squeeze into. And from that, I got my first client in Namibia. That gave me more motivation to keep going. And fast forwarding to today, I'm a certified Webflow template creator. And then I've also worked with clients across Europe, Africa, and the US. And Looking back, I wouldn't have thought that this was something I was doing, but just sticking with one thing and going from there was, yeah, I guess, where I found my passion.
Nice. Nice. I think it's quite interesting that the panel is quite diverse. And a lot of times when people think of tech, they think of it as something that's a little bit for nerdy people, like it's something that not everybody can try and do. But it's a little bit interesting to see how you moved from, your being a little bit artistic, to sort of like find your foot in tech. I think I like to look at the sort of like the personal trajectory of a person as a storyline. So it's like the first point of inception. It's almost like what you need to move over to the next phase. So the first one, like we've covered now, which is the passion. You need to identify what your passion is, and then obviously the next step would be finding the right skills for the job. How would you? I'd like to start with Philippus. How did you identify the skills that you needed, and how did you sort of merge that with? You were working at the time. So how did you upskill while having a full-time job?
Okay, so I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I'm not going to be, those motivational videos that are like, you should sleep for 1 minute. You only need sleep once in a week. No, I did not. I did not do that. So when I finally discovered that data engineering was the thing that I actually wanted to go for, was then the thing of, okay, fine, now I had to find platforms to actually start my training, right? So at that time, COVID is a blessing in disguise in a way, because after COVID came through, Udemy had heavy sales, like so many sales, like something would be like $9, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna jump on that, right? So then I like go on Udemy and I would like search like data engineering for beginners and whatnot. So I got a course where like they actually like went through the basics of what you actually need to know about data engineering. And I went through that. So that was the first thing that I actually looked at. I tried to look for a course that I can actually do. In this case, I was lucky that Udemy was around and it had sales. So then I could actually buy one of them for cheap. Now, after doing that, it's one thing following a course, but it's another thing implementing, right? So while I was doing this course, they introduced other areas where you can actually get data from, and then you can manipulate that. So there's a website called Kaggle. Kaggle, you can get a lot of data sets from there. When you get those data sets from there, you pick it up, and then after that, you can do what you want with them in data engineering. So I went on Kaggle. I was like, giving myself like weird scenarios, like asking myself, like, for example, hey, this is my source. The salespeople probably need data in a MySQL database. So Kaggle will probably be like in a Microsoft SQL database, and then I'm trying to transform it into a MySQL one. I did that myself. I had a small laptop at the time that I think was a Core i5 that got robbed off of me. Rest in peace. Had that guy set up all the environments there. He was full to the brim, like he was red with just all these environments that I still did not even uninstall the whole React stuff and whatnot that I was doing. So used that, set up my environment, and then like I just started practicing more. So once I found that skill of SQL, found a course, and then that course basically led me to the rest. And then the rest is history, I guess. Yeah.
Nice. I think I'd like to move to McNime. A little bit different, in comparison to Philippus. He had a bit of taste of, going to school and rubbing shoulders with engineering and being told how the thing works and everything. But you sort of like had to learn for yourself, So mostly like practical learning. How was that experience for you? Finding that there's something like no code, and then sort of diving into it.
Honestly, I would not be able to do what I do on a daily basis without practically applying it. So it's take on personal projects, client projects. It's a day-to-day thing all the time. If I take a month away from Webflow, I will forget how things work. Probably not, but it is practical, applied experience all the time. And notes. It's it's honestly one thing to attend webinars and to take on courses. And in most cases, it does feel like you are learning, and you probably are. But the important thing is to apply it in a practical setting, in a real world setting, much like what you just mentioned. And this is where I can come in with Billet. Just to touch on practical experience for a little bit. With Billet, at least, notes. I can be biased with this, I guess, because I'm a co-founder of Billet, but it's so important for tech talent to take on a project-based learning mindset, because it's one thing learning in a classroom setting, taking on courses, and just watching YouTube tutorials, but it's so important to take on projects and to complete them and add this to your portfolio. It shows that you can actually complete something in a real world scenario. And yeah, that's kind of what I did starting up with Webflow a few years ago. It's building websites and hoping that these can be portfolio items and proving to clients that I can do the work, I can understand the concepts around these no-code and low-code tools. So it's just practical application all the time.
One more thing, sorry, before just realized I didn't answer part of that question. So the whole balance that I had to also go through. So again, I guess I was lucky or blessed. So at the time, I was working with the ministry. Ministry didn't really have much work, right? So I would finish my work by 10 a.m. So when I'm done at 10, I'll be like, okay, cool. What else can I do in my time now? Okay, what I can do right now is actually like practice, right? But in a sense where you don't have that leeway, right? Depending on if you guys are now going in industry and whatnot, and depending on where you guys actually end up working. So what we do, at least, we allow time for learning, like within our environment. So if there's a point where like you work until like 8 till 1, and then like from 2 to 5, you can do some learning, right? So we allow for that, but then that's at F&B. I have no idea at any other place. But now it's now a thing of if your workplace does not allow for that at all, sadly you then have to just make time. So you look at your weekends and then see what you're doing in your weekends, right? And then you actually plan for that. Plan for an hour, 2 hours, right? That you're only gonna do this and then you stop. But then it's the consistent planning that you actually need. Because if you stop, at some point you're gonna keep on stopping. And then this thing is gonna fall through the cracks. So having that balance, I'm gonna tell you right now, it's hard. It's not going to be a walk in the park, because I also had to go through a lot when I'm actually trying to find that balance. But have that plan, use your free time, and then also don't forget to rest, guys. Rest is very, very, very important. Sleep, get your 8 hours in. Even though these, I know the motivational guys, they got their millions and whatnot through not sleeping, but you're human. So please, please sleep.
Yeah, so I'd like to move over to Ruben. I think putting myself in the shoes of someone that identifies tech that has never done tech before, I could have one of the excuse that it's a little bit expensive, to switch careers or to learn new skills. Since you have switched a lot of hats, what are some cost-effective ways of, acquiring new skills?
All right, so let's go back a bit. So I'm just about to graduate. I'm looking for an internship. I'm back in the country. Again, looking for a traditional internship, couldn't find it. Found another type of mechanical engineering firm. They're like, cool, we don't do normal mechanical engineering, but you're gonna do something slightly different. Cool, I accept. I'm like, how much are you guys gonna pay me? They're like $1,000. I'm like, but I have no choice. So, okay, free labor, all right, I need the skills, cool. Gave me some interesting projects where I had no idea how to go about this. So I was doing mechatronics work now. I was creating circuit boards from scratch, using copper plates, cutting into it with machinery, welding on my bits, then coding that in Arduino. I'm like, God, the whole time I'm just like, how? They're like, we are paying you. I'm like, what are you paying me? Anyways, figured it out. Led me on a path. 3 months after that, need employment again. What? Go finish university, come back, need employment again. Where to now? Looking, can't find. Then again, don't sit down, networking. Through networking, got another internship where they're like, we'll pay you a little bit more. $5,000. Like, all right, okay, cool. But then the work was great. So I went in there with the mentality, I'm like, all right, I'm not at the point yet where I can start making good money, but now, is this useful for me to learn? So I went there with the mindset of learning, just trying to soak in as much as possible. 6 months passed, I need work again. Now I'm like, all right, I'm going in this direction, but now I'm, again, uncertain. So I heard a lot about doing all sorts of courses, short courses, doing another degree, going and just following people around. I'm like, okay, but what should I do? I didn't want to do any sort of extra education. I'm like, I don't see the point. I have a degree. I'm an engineer. Why must I go study further? So then through this, I started speaking to people. I'm like, all right, guys, how do I go about this? I realized that, and I'm sure all of you know this as well, but you haven't exploited it. Through just trying to go speak to people, I'm like, okay, I know somehow all of these people are bosses in different places. There's an MD here, there's just a manager over there. My uncle knows someone who's a boss somewhere else. I go to these people, I'm like, give me work. They're like, we don't have work. Oh, sorry, man. But we can give you advice. So then I went to them, asked all of them similar questions like, how do I go about it? How do I go about it? Once I got the, once I got the correct information, or what I deemed was the correct information to go in a specific direction, I'm like, all right, this is what all of these big people said they need in their companies. How do I scale that way? And I'm like, all right, where do we start? YouTube. I want to learn this. How do I go about it? See all sorts of different stories. Then I was led to Coursera. Don't know if you guys have heard of Coursera, but brilliant place. In fact, at my current workplace, we just hired someone 2 months ago because of her Coursera skills. So because that is so useful, with her specifically, she's our digital transformation architecture, a digital transformation solutions architect. But her skills in Power BI, which is very rare, proper skills, PL300, Power BI, guys, it's the future. If you are looking for something extra to do now, do it now. Those skills are what pushed us over the line for her. So then for myself, coming back, heard what is required in the industry, went to go ask all around, then went about upskilling myself. Where do we start? YouTube, basic questions, free. From there, they were like, all right, I need some more substance. That's when Udemy would come in, that's when Code Academy came in, that's when Coursera came in, and yeah, the rest is history.
Nice. I think before we move over to the next topic, I just wanted to clarify, since you're upskilling, YouTube, Udemy, and everything like that, when you approach a potential employer, do they actually need like a degree or something? Do they ask for proof of your skills? How do you, without going to university or anything like that, how do you use your YouTube skills and everything to approach like a potential employer?
So I will say having some sort of qualification always adds gravity to whatever you're trying to say. So I could go to the people to be like, so I'm an engineer. I know that's not useful to you, but I'm a professional. So you can trust what I'm saying. So I'm a professional, but then all the extra skills. So it's useful when you go into the workplace to be like, there is a degree, but the skills you've got is what I've got extra. But I guess it just gives people peace of mind that, yeah, he's a graduate. Although that's a mentality that's slowly but surely changing, that, degree is not the end all, but qualifications, but skills is what people are looking for. So with the different places, I could go to them with skills. To be like, this is a specific need that you have. And then we can go about dealing with that need. And then they were like, all right, cool. I can immediately see the value you bring to my company. Let's go.
Nice. Okay, so the last topic we have is building resilience, adaptability, and lifelong learning. So I'd like to start with Ignite. Since you've dealt with a lot of different clients, some are global, and how would you, say the importance of lifelong learning is to you, since things keep changing now and then, and so fast, especially in tech? What's the importance of lifelong learning?
Okay, so I think one thing around local development that everyone has to kind of understand is that it's constantly shifting and growing because more and more companies are starting to adopt this kind of development. And this is something that I also have to keep up with all the time. And it's something that I've accepted slowly, but I've accepted it. Yeah, I think it's just keeping up with it and also being able to offer my clients at least the best possible solutions when it comes to their software applications, when it comes to their websites. And spacing for a second. Yeah, for the most part at least, and with every field, and I know we don't like to hear this as much as often, or at least a lot, but learning doesn't just stop when you exit a classroom or when you finish a course. It's a lot about keeping that going over time, making sure that you still have the drive to keep learning outside of a classroom, making sure that you're curious enough to take on new things. And thankfully, I am curious enough to continue learning and to be curious enough to find other paths around local development as well. And yeah, certifications, as you mentioned, and you also mentioned certifications. And stacking that up is very beneficial, especially in the tech industry. But backing that up with practical experience is even better, and it makes you a better hiring, a better candidate when it comes to hiring as well. You can prove that you can apply your knowledge in a real world setting, in a real world scenario. So yeah, I think that's about it.
So Philippus, I think you as well have been switching quite a bit, and obviously you've been switching quite a bit, and obviously that involves a lot of upskilling and keeping yourself up to date with the latest tech trends and everything like that. How do you keep yourself updated with tech trends? Because sometimes, especially for me, I would notice that in university they would teach you certain skills, but then when you go into industry, it's like something else, something new, something updated. How do you keep yourself updated in that sense?
Okay, so now, quick vent, right? Reason why I left software engineering in the first place is because software engineers are full of angry people and they're always trying to make things easy. So there's always a new framework. There's always something new to learn. So fine, I'm doing React right now. No, there's Vue. Okay, no, there's something else. There's Angular. I don't know. There's so many frameworks in the entire thing that it becomes very, very overwhelming, right? Because every single time there's always something new, always something easy that you always have to keep up, right? So my first advice is first find your niche, right? Find your niche, find what you like. In my case, I found data. Data is my niche. I love data, right? So find your niche first. After you then find your niche, only then can you then dabble then into your lifelong learning, right? So in my case, how I then keep up with all the latest trends and whatnot in data, usually when there are data forums that are around, right, I actually attend those. I sit there, I see what's actually new in data. And also, I do my own. So the other thing is that even when I'm on Google and whatnot, it has my algorithm. So sometimes it even brings like suggestions on YouTube, like, hey, this is something new that's in data. Can you check it out? Then I actually look at it, and then I keep up with that. If it's something that is actually for me, I actually take it up and be like, okay, cool, I'm actually interested in that. Let me actually look at it, right? So I kid you not, once you find your niche, right, what you actually want to focus on that, right? And then the rest will actually come together. You will get suggestions from somewhere. You would get that's how, that's literally AI in your phone. You click on something, you'll see a LinkedIn post saying, hey, there's a seminar or this thing that you actually want to attend. You will find that. And then if you want to attend it, you'll actually attend it, and then you'll actually get information on there, then you learn from that. So in my case, with data now, my main source was, again, Udemy was my first source. After that, it then became Microsoft. So Microsoft always has events that they always release, but then they see a lot of stuff in those events. There's an aspect on data, there's an aspect on AI, there's an aspect on actual development, there's an aspect on collaboration, DevOps. They go wild in those guys, right? So when they actually have these seminars, or when they actually have these, what are they called? They're called forgot what they're called. But when they actually have these, I make my time to actually attend. And I kid you not, sometimes they actually come with free courses where, like, when you do attend, you can actually write an exam, a Microsoft certification exam for free, right? So look out for those things. Like, look out for your for the news out there, especially if you actually find your niche. So again, number one, find your niche, and then after you find your niche, you then do research around that niche. Everything will actually come together. If your niche is web dev, good luck, guys. Me, I left that life. It was nice. So
It's not that
yeah.
bad.
That's it for me.
Ruben, so lifelong learning can be quite difficult and challenging. You know, obviously, one thing that's sort of important is like, where do you find your motivation to keep, to keep moving forward? You face a lot of setbacks, as you outlined, in your speech now. How do you find motivation to keep on moving?
Right. So, firstly, on his point of finding your niche and then doing research into that, social media is your friend. YouTube, TikTok, use it properly. Ask your questions. Type in your questions. Grow your algorithm for that. MKBHD, those kind of guys, very useful. Very useful. Secondly, now coming to what you're saying, because yes, I've experienced quite a few setbacks. I got to the point where I realized that my career, or rather, the company that I work for, doesn't define me. So I have a specific goal that I'm going towards, finding your niche. So can't find it here, it's cool, I'll find it elsewhere. Another place, cool, I'll find it elsewhere. Because I realized that at the end of the day, I am gathering the skills I need to, eventually do the work I want to do. Up until the point where I'm at right now with Old Arbor and List, and yeah, the job is fun. It's nice to go to work on a daily basis. Like, some of my colleagues look at me odd, like 4 o'clock, to be like, bro, why are you smiling? What's wrong with you? But it's because my job is fun. But this is something that I've created. So going through all of this, I'm like, all right, I know where I'm going as a professional. My work environment doesn't define me. I will get there. But now, how do we sustain all of that? And it's because in my personal life, I'm sorted. In my personal life, I have peace. In my personal life, I focus on the stuff that's important. You focus on your mental health, focus on your physical health, focus on your spiritual health. Once you are sane and sound in the individual that you are, you see, when you go into the workplace, whatever nonsense comes your way, it doesn't affect you that much, because, I'm stronger than this, I'm above this, Okay, so it didn't work here, fine, it's fine. I'll find the next thing, which will be great. And then you tell yourself that you will find where you are going. You don't give up. Lots of different ways, but in the end, you will get there. So that's how I remain motivated, because I know that whatever happens in the workplace, it'll be fine. I try my best. It doesn't work, cool. Go to another place, try my best. It will eventually work. Yeah.
That's great. Let's give it up for panel. I think now we're gonna open the floor up for questions. I think we have 5 questions, and I'm not sure if there's a mic to be passed around that we can use. Anyone with a question?
I have a question for the digital transformation analyst. Ever since I saw the title, I've been curious I've been curious as to what exactly are the nitty-gritty details of what you do exactly. Like, let me say, what does a job entail from day to day, weekly, monthly, yearly? What impact does it have on companies, organizations, the community, all that?
So digital transformation, or DX, is super broad. So we come in and we, business will say, I've got this problem. Is there a way that you can assist us in solving this? So we come in and, let me use some practical examples. So with Pick n Pay. Pick n Pay wanted to venture into the online space. They wanted to venture into the e-grocer space, online shopping. So business in general, so by business I mean the business needs. business has needs and they don't always have the individuals to go about solving those tech needs. So you might have a developer, or you might have a data engineer, or you might have someone that's a front-end developer, whatever, tech individuals. But then they're like, cool, we need the person who brings all of this together to show the full life cycle of like an online store, full life cycle that is required to set up an online store, technology-wise, run an online store in terms of the people behind it, so the processes involved in that, and then how this benefits business, like how much money are we going to make, how does this affect the EBIT, earnings before interest and tax at the end of the day for the business. So that's, as digital transformation, I must look at all of those things and be like, cool, this is how all of this works together, this is why Pick n Pay should go in this direction, as an example. With Namibia Dairies, so they have all sorts of machinery that they make the milk with, yogurts, whatever. But they realize that they don't necessarily know the efficiency of the machinery. A lot of the stuff is still very manual. They still write down a lot of forms. So a lot of the process is manual. Then they'll come to us and they'll be like, cool, there's machinery here. Is there a way that you can digitize this, automate it? How do we go about that? So then we'll come and we'll be like, cool. Firstly, we have the machinery. We need to gather our data in such a way with your engineer, store it in such a way that you can provide it to your analyst. Once your analyst has the information, we then instruct them, go back to business to be like, okay, this is the stuff that business wants to see. Please build these dashboards for us. Cool. Then once these dashboards are built and we're like, all right, so we now understand what's going on there, then you see people are taking long on the production floor because they're writing so many things. So we want to go automate or digitize a form. But you realize in digitizing a form, you need to understand the process that that form satisfies. So then you go map that entire process. You map your as-is process, you map your to-be process, and then you go back to business. This is the process. This is the technological way that we are going to digitize this process. So business knows, you understand exactly what you're trying to do. You have a solution that fits their problem exactly. And then if it's something simple like a Microsoft form, something that you can set up, or you can speak to, low-code, no-code developer or some sort of developer to create the program for you. Yes, and that's my job on a daily basis. I'm the guy in the middle. Yeah.
So in short, you're a DJ Khaled. Bring the pieces together and make one group product. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. It's answered. Interesting enough, the degree that I'm doing, informatics at NAST, it actually entails what you're doing because we are the middlemen between the tech guys and the business, and we help the business and the tech guys understand each other. And then as well as the mapping of the processes, it's actually something we're busy with because they do teach us that in a specific module to say mapping of business processes is very important.
Yes.
In the fact that it helps streamline stuff, eliminate unnecessary stuff, save costs, cut costs, as a C, and also just overall. Yeah.
Interesting. So just a quick one, does that mean that the guy in the middle, you have to have a little bit of knowledge from both sides, like what happens in both sides of the
100%. So you need to understand tech, but you also need to know how to speak corporate. So that's where the business comes in. We've got a corporate lady over there. So, business at the end of the day, they want to make money. They want to make money and spend the least amount of money to make the most amount of money. So you need to come in there and understand exactly what they want, because you can't just go in there with a whole bunch of tech jargon and they're like, okay, but what does that mean at the end of the day? So you just tell them, cool, give me $5,000, we'll get you a website, this will make $100,000. Rudimentary example, but yes.
Yeah. Any other questions? Just state your name, please, and then ask the question.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? My name is Linia, and my question is to all the speakers, but mainly focused on Maggie. I'm sorry for shortening your name. I'm very lazy. Okay, so you said you work with international clients, right? So I just wanted for you to maybe let us know how did you manage to find those clients that you work with, And in addition to that, all the speakers can maybe share with us how, or you covered quite all the online platforms where we can learn new skills, but maybe you can also cover on the online platforms where we could find career paths. So yeah, that's my question.
Okay, I guess I'll start. And it's okay, you can call me Maggie. We'll let it pass for today. Okay, how did I get my clients? Thankfully now I don't have to do all the client legwork in terms of finding clients. I don't have to go out there and solicit people. But starting off, I can just remember because it's been so long. I started off with creating portfolio case studies, and then from that I launched my own website, and then from that I launched my own agency. So that already in itself was a sort of a footprint. And with building around Webflow, I gained enough credibility to become a certified template designer. And essentially what that does is you're now listed on a global marketplace, and then clients around the world can find you and find your work, and from there just contact you and hire you. So in simple terms, that's how most international clients find me. And outside of that, it is still through my social medias. It is still through SEO. And yeah, but the biggest has been through Webflow, has been through the marketplace and word of mouth. So, and just to start off, I'll probably, or at least now, just to start off, I'll probably start off with a website, a basic website. Have enough portfolio case studies, have enough of a digital footprint on LinkedIn, on Instagram, just to prove that you're capable of actually delivering the work. And people will eventually contact you and find you, and then you get your first client, and then you have to keep them. And then from there, it's word of mouth. So
especially with clients, they're very visual people, so they want to see what you can do. So like she said, especially if you're like a no-code web developer, you should have a bunch of websites that you've done, and just to put that on your portfolio so that you can showcase to the clients. I'm not sure if you also want to jump in there.
Yeah, it's particularly to the second question that she asked of sites that you can use to look for career paths. Okay, so let me be honest with you right now. I do not have a site, but then what I did was, so fine, I'm going to advertise Microsoft like it's the holy grail, but I'm not saying that it is. So when I actually found my niche, right, in terms of data, right, and then I wanted to get Microsoft certifications, what they usually do is that they have your different professions like in a list. Now, when you have that list and you probably click on, maybe you want to be a DevOps engineer, for example, in Microsoft. They would then bring up a list of certs that you can actually get. They would then map out your career path of what you can be, right? So they do that on Microsoft, right? So now in my case, I did that for data engineering. I looked for a data engineering profession. I got that. And then I saw the path of what you can actually be. But in my case, yes, I'm in data engineering, right? But then this is not where I end, right? Reason why I'm in data is because I want to expand more on it. I'm at data engineering right now because we are the ground level people. I wanted to understand where data comes from and the source and how it works, and then build onto that. So my next thing is then going into analytics, right? So from here, how do the people actually, the data analysts now, who I think in data, the private school kids of everyone, because they're the ones with the suits, and then, presenting to business, showing that, these awesome dashboards, you click on it, like it has the different colors and the, graphs that we can't read. Yeah, they do that, right? So then I was actually thinking of actually going into that, and then I drew my own career path of my own, saying that, okay, fine, I'm going to start at data engineering and then hone the skills of a data engineer as much as I can. And then after that, then shift my career path into then data analytics, see how that goes. So I then had to draw that out for myself. But an actual site that one can actually go to go through a career path, I have that for you.
I can chime in there.
Yeah, go. Yeah, you see, you have one more person.
Okay, so an actual site where you can figure out your career path just right now is Billet. Yes. Like, right. I was getting there. So we do cater to computer science students, and we do narrow it down to 6 career paths. Yes, yeah, 6 career paths. And within that, you can basically take on projects and complete these projects and use these as portfolio case studies. So you're entering the job market with knowing how to use certain tools, understanding certain fundamental concepts. And yeah, so it's a matter of a Google search, or you can find me on the floor and I can explain to it.
Advertising at its best.
Yes, advertising. Come on.
I'm not sure if we still have questions. Two more?
Yes, good evening. My name is Cleopas, and this question goes to Mr. Philip. I've just heard of data engineering today for the first time, and I'm out of curiosity. I just want to know what varsity qualification would one need in specific to acquire that as a career. And also you mentioned earlier that switching from the software engineering niche into data niche, and you scored the job. You mentioned it with a positive attitude. I want to know what drove you to go into that new niche with little experience at the time. And also lastly, sorry for the 3-part question, you mentioned currently something between data analytics and data engineering. So in your own words, I want you to differentiate between the two in your own words, just for clarity. Thank you.
You're making me happy, man. You made me so happy. So, question number 1, what degree do you actually need to be a data engineer? Computer science degree. That's it. That's literally it. It's computer science degree mainly if you have had a subject in database design. So database design, and I don't know if, I think NAS still has the course where you do database techniques and whatnot. Once you have that, that's already 1 foot in, right? So that's the qualification that you need. Second question that you asked is, when I switched from software engineering to data engineering, and then I scored the job, how did I actually have that? Is it the drive or the motivation to do it while I had little experience? Okay. So.
Don't lie.
I'll try not to. So, I discovered data engineering in 2022 April. That's when I discovered data engineering, right? So when I discovered data engineering, then I was like, okay, cool. Now I have to learn this thing, right? So did the Udemy course. After I did the Udemy course, I then, applied my knowledge on little small projects that I did. Like I told you, my laptop that got robbed of me suffered, right? The guy was in the red, right? So what I then did was I built a portfolio of projects that I had under my name. Plus, again, I was also not actually lucky, but I was blessed, right? In the previous job that I had before I went to the ministry, it was loaded with SQL stuff, but then it did not actually have tools. We were doing extract, transform, and load, which I'll explain soon with the last question that you actually asked. We're doing extract, transform, and load literally through SQL, PL/SQL. We're not using any tools. We're not using SQL Server integrated services. We're not using Scala. We're not using AWS. None of that. So that was all like you using your algorithm knowledge on how do I actually solve this? How do I actually transform this using SQL and PSQL? So I had that leverage as well. So while I was doing the practice in those months, right, I built a portfolio of the projects under my name that I actually did, plus some of the projects that I did in my previous job. I also add that to my resume. Namibians call it a CV. So now when I put that, I put my project, my key projects, and what I've actually achieved. That gave me the confidence. And then also, sorry, one last thing that I actually missed was that I'm about to get biblical with you guys now. So if you guys are non-believers, I'm sorry. But while I was doing this thing, I was praying. Right? I was praying that I was asking myself, am I at the right path? Am I doing the right thing while I keep on doing this? And the answer came when that vacancy came out. It was like a data engineering vacancy, and I was just like, that one is mine, right? So with all that I had from my previous job, from April until, because I think it came out in November, the vacancy came out in November. From April until October, I was doing all of that, and then God with me, and I was like, this is it. So I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna try my luck. Okay, quick story, sorry. So when I actually got into the interview, right, this was actually a funny thing. So when I got into the interview, they were interviewing me, they were asking me the questions. I told them, one thing that actually like got me through the door as well was I told them my experience and what I was doing. Right, that is very key. Yes, for a student that's just starting, you kind of can't really do that unless you're doing stuff in your personal capacity. But in my case, I was lucky to be working. So I told them, no, these are the projects that I put out. That's why I am good for this role, because I did this. These are the things that I've actually done, right? And now they ended up asking me an SQL question, which apparently now this one was the one that actually hired me when I asked. So they asked me an SQL question. I had to like I think I had to like extract data from a table, and then I had to write the SQL code on the board. So your boy, how he solutions is that he talks to himself, right? My colleagues, I think they got used to it at this point. So I'm like, so loud, like in my head, like, rapping lyrics, just like talking to myself, like solutioning to myself, like, okay, how am I going to do this and whatnot? So I told the panelists, I told them like, listen, it's about to get weird. I'm not gonna talk to you guys, right? I'm gonna talk to myself right now, just so I can write this code for you. So then I stood up, I was like, pacing around, okay, I need to grab this, I need to get that, I need to get this, I need to get that, okay, and then I need to do, and then I was like, okay, wait, what do you need again? No, this is what you need, okay, cool, go back to my thing, talk, walk around. The guy like online was just like, what is going on? And then I was like, okay, sharp, ready. Wrote the thing down, and then like, we gave it to them, and then they were like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. I was like, so I did all of this, and you guys just say, cool, okay, fine. It's all good. So then I left. But then I ended up landing the job, and then the project manager told me, like, the fact that you thought the process through in front of us, that was very brave, because not many people do that. So answers that second question. Third question, sorry, this was long-winded. Difference between data analytics and data engineering. So let's start with data engineering, right? So what data engineers do, right, is that all we do is get data from the source. So, for example, you have, I'm trying to think of a very, very easy example right now. Okay, so let's say you have a sales database, right? So when you have this sales database, right, it's probably like hosted in, maybe another company is hosting this sales data, right? But now our company needs to host this sales data in our own environment, right? So they use, maybe the other company uses MySQL as their technology. We use Microsoft SQL. So what data engineers do, we are the bridge between the two. They're like, okay, fine. So our people, they need the data in-house. So what we do is that we build extract, transform, and load pipelines. So first one is extract. We extract data from the source, which is MySQL, right? We extract it as raw as we can. After that, we then do transformations. What transformations do is that we basically clean the data. We make sure that whatever is, if maybe, for example, an ID number column should only have ID numbers. It should not contain a name, right? So we make sure that that is correct. If an ID should be, I mean, if a column should not be empty, we make sure that it actually has a value to make sure that all this data is actually clean, right? That we don't have to do any other changes or anything whatnot when they land on our source. After that, we then load, right? We then load it onto our source, onto our destination, which is the Microsoft one, right? Once it's there and it's ready, that's when the private school kids come in now, which is the data analytics guys. So what they do, mostly what they do is that they use SQL to extract data from our source, which is Microsoft now, to basically build dashboards. So business can come and say, hey, so what is our sales data for the month? That's their question to the data analyst now. Data analyst will then go, okay, fine, write an SQL code, see the data for the month, and then they put it into a dashboard. And now once they put it into the dashboard, they say, okay, fine, we've had an upward trajectory in our sales. Now, how does that advise business? Business sees that, oh, okay, cool. So I see we sold caps a lot this month. Does that mean we should order in more caps? Then we're like, oh yeah, sure. I mean, the thing is selling, so why not? So then they order in more caps based on this data that you actually have. Another question can be, so by the past 3 months, have we actually like break even, for example, with our sales versus what we've actually sold? The data analyst, again, they go in there, they look at our sales data, they provide the dashboards and the charts to show how we actually like, how they did well in sales and did they actually break even, right? If they didn't, they'll be like, okay, then what are we doing wrong? They'll ask those questions like, what are we doing wrong based on the data and what can we do better, right? And yeah, so that's basically the difference between the two. So data analytics, more client-facing, they build dashboards, they show you the actual data and the actual readings of it. Data engineering, they prepare the data for the data for the data analyst. So yeah, that was very long, so I'm sorry. Hope that answers your question, man.
Thank you.
Also,
So I've just got an analogy that I wanted to add on to what he's saying. So in short, at the end of the day, your business leaders want information to base their decisions on. Your data engineer is the person that gets the information together, and then your analyst is the one that creates the report. Now your dashboard creates the report, which business can then use, you know, in short.
Nice. Yeah, wasn't
I
it?
shot at me at all. At all.
It's not your crash course. I think that's it for questions. Not sure. There's still a couple?
Okay, we can have two. Maybe just
Two
keep
more?
them brief as well.
Good evening, all. That was quite a very informative and thought-provoking discussion. Now I'm going to ask these questions. I hope it doesn't go really out of the topic, but I think it's related. I am from the education side. My name is Salma, by the way. And I just wanted to find out, I think from all the panels, you have discussed more about, getting the technical skills. Okay? The technical skills, the qualifications, and all that. But is that enough? Well, is that enough? I just wanted to find out because from my side or our side of the education sector, currently we have a lot of industry complaining that your graduate students are not ready for the industry. Technical-wise, they can, but soft skill-wise, they are not there. Now, how can then that implemented as they are going through their this kind of a quest for finding their passion, the drive, that niche in within them, what they want? How can they implement now the part of softer skill on the softer side? Those competencies that industry that might look for, and also that will help them navigate. What would you say maybe each of you feels skills that help you navigate, that are not technical based, that will help you navigate this whole process and be given its, as you are going through the training or the courses that you are doing, and also in the industry itself? What would that be, and how can they, learn that and develop that? Yeah.
Okay, that is a good question. So from the get-go, you're going to suck at soft skills. It's just how it's going to be. And over time, talking to other people, being in communities, you do learn to hone that. And just from my experience, I have to continuously sit on client calls with the international clients, and it's time zones that you have to deal with, and it's sometimes accents that you also don't understand, and it's responding to emails, all of these little etiquettes that you kind of have to adapt over time. As a student, I would probably say that you would start off by talking to other students, talking to your peers, just understanding how to conduct yourself in a business setting. It's little things, responding to an email, that really gets you, and that's something that you really do have to hone as well. I'm not sure that answers your question, but perhaps.
So, speaking from personal experience, like what helped me was now the networking. What helped me was the networking, and then the mentality that, cool, I'm not where I want to be, so I need to learn. So I need to have the mindset and the attitude to, be willing to listen, which is not always, and I don't necessarily think I had that when I graduated. Because when I graduated, I was like, I just graduated cum laude. I'm a boss, I deserve to be employed. That was a bit of my mentality. And maybe that didn't help me. But it's from there where I humbled myself and I'm like, I need to learn. And I need to understand that regardless of the level that I'm at, I can always learn more. So that's where the networking came in. So it's a mentality that I guess one would somehow need to incorporate. One of, you can always learn something from who you are going to, because that also teaches a bit of respect. But then there's also the attitude towards your work, enthusiasm for your work that people don't always have. Like my girlfriend was actually telling me a story from her experiences in the past where an employee would come to work and he would be upset. He would be talking to the clients, but then you would see on his face that this guy is bothered by something. And then it influences the entire meeting because everyone feels uneasy. And it's harder for you to achieve what you need to achieve simply because of that attitude switch. So it's a thing of, I can always learn from others. What's going on at home does not affect me at work, and what's going on at work does not affect me at home. So it's a thing of mentality, switching off and on your mentality when you come to work. And those are key things that I would say, like even when, one of the reasons why I was hired in a lot of places, people say it's just because you have this passion for what you're doing. You make us want to work with you. And then that's a big thing where people can see a drive and a desire. Even if you don't have the necessary technical skills at that moment, they can be like, cool, but I can teach this person. And then this person can grow, and then this person can teach other people. So it's that ability to be teachable, that ability to remain humble, and that ability to always put on a smile, even when it's not great. That will take one far in the professional setting.
Okay. Yeah. So I can tell you now, right? Again, I don't have sources or anything of that sort, but at least how I learned my soft skills, sadly, okay, not sadly, but fortunately for me, was through experience. I was blessed enough to actually start working immediately out of university, right? So, and then when I started working at Silver IT Solutions, I had an amazing supervisor. So he basically coached me through the whole soft skills thing. So yes, I had the technical stuff on, but then he then gave everything to me. So if it's time to send an email, I'll be like, can you send the email? He'll be like, no, you're doing it, right? So then I would then draft the email, and then I'll be like, can you proofread it? Then he'll proofread it and say, okay, no, change your wording from this to this, because again, so your boy doesn't mince words. I was a straight shooter, but now start to relax a bit, man, because you can't be using those words. So then that through experience, it grows through experience. So the more you talk to people, the more you interact with clients, the more you interact with your own colleagues, you will grow these soft skills, even with your own people, like in your own circles that you're in. You will gain this stuff, and then you just have to apply it. It will come naturally. At least it came naturally for me as well, because the more you do it. But in terms of where you must look to learn soft skills, do a YouTube search, how to send a proper email when you're in conflict. And then you see that. And then when you see that, then you're like, okay, cool. And how do I apply it in my actual work? So yeah, that's it for me.
But just quickly, do you think that could influence soft skills? Do you think it will influence somebody to get employment, the industry to get it?
What, soft skills? Yes, most definitely. Because again, I thought as a software engineer at first, I thought I would be like in a dark room in a corner, coding, with myself. I don't have to interact with people. But now that's what they look for. Yes, you have the technical skills, but how are you with people? Are you kind? Are you humble? Or are you, are you kind? Are you humble? Or are you a mean person? Because yes, you can be good, but then if you're mean, no one wants to work with you. So yeah, so that is why, like, with that balance that you actually need, it's actually really needed in the industry, and it's actually very useful because you don't want to employ someone that's always cussing people out. So yeah.
One more thing to add on to that. Another, I guess, soft skill that is super useful is, well, the ability to problem solve. Because coming into the professional space as a fresh graduate, there's a lot of stuff you don't know. But now it's the mentality behind that to be like, there's a lot I don't know, but I'll figure it out. That mentality of figuring it out, and now this is where communication comes in, being able to articulate that you're going to figure it out, not just saying, I don't know, and letting that be that. Yeah, it goes a long way. And will this really influence hiring? I was part of an interview panel not too long ago where we were interviewing some people for a technical role, and there was a candidate who was technically extremely strong, very technically competent. But then we realized this guy can do the work, but the moment we put him in front of a client or in front of a business leader, then we are not so certain. Like, his knowledge is solid, but we don't know how that would translate with a client. So then the person who was technically just a little bit, not as strong, but then could back that up with the interpersonal communication. We're like, yeah, that's the kind of person that we would want in our business, because we can be confident in letting this person, represent us.
True. I'm not sure if I just want to say one thing on what he was saying, because the importance of being able to communicate, like I've noticed as well, sitting in the hiring process, you would see they would be, especially with technology people, they would be very good in what they do. But when it comes to sort of like expressing the problem and, communicating the situation, it's a bit difficult for them to do. So I would notice that the person that would get hired is just the person that knows how to sort of, navigate like communication scenarios. But meanwhile, the person that's really, really good in what they do, but just because they couldn't sort of like, they weren't good with the soft skills, with, communicating, they sort of don't get the job. But then it takes a bit of skills from the hiring people to say like, okay, we can see that this person has a pretty good portfolio, even though he can't communicate. If his skills are really, really good, then they can hire you, but most of the time it's just like the way you present yourself and that illusion that your communication gives to people. It makes you, it's a really, I think it's something that people seem to neglect most of the time. We just focus on the skills, but when it's time to sort of like prove your skills, you should also know how to, make people aware that you have this certain skills. I think we're done. I think that's give it up, panel.